Are companies paying their fair share?
An investigation by Fox 6's Mike Lowe found this shocking information about corporate taxation here in Wisconsin.
Scared about what the future holds for us in Fond du Lac?
2009, one story dominated the news.
We were in negotiations. We presented a last best and final.
Fond du Lac boat engine maker Mercury Marine was trying to stay afloat in hard times.
There will be jobs leaving, and most likely
it was threatening to move 1,000 jobs to Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Keep putting the fear in these people, and that's not right.
If it didn't get concessions from the union and aid from the government.
We just couldn't become the Detroit of Wisconsin.
The threat pitted labor.
They're going to try and bust this union and drive it out of here.
Against management.
We're running out of time.
Against the community.
We need to keep Mercury here for the economy of the town and
against the government.
We had to win this one.
But then Governor Jim Doyle stepped in, offering a package of incentives worth $70 million. The county passed a sales tax increase to pay an additional $50 million to the company, and the strapped-for-cash city of Fond du Lac added $3 million. All of that and a wave of public and political pressure forced the union to take one last vote.
The members of the IAM Local 1947 in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin have ratified a modification of their current labor agreement.
Mercury Marine announced it would stay in Fond du Lac.
Hard as this is, we are now going in the right direction.
In tough times, governors and mayors are desperate to keep jobs in their communities.
If you look at Fond du Lac and Fond du Lac County, had that company not been there, it would have been devastating. So even though that wasn't my deal or my proposal, I think Jim Doyle and the team he put in place was warranted.
Corporate critics say when you're negotiating with a gun to your head, you don't necessarily have time to check if it's loaded.
Blackmail, extortion, I think those are legitimate words.
Jack Norman is a corporate tax expert who has written several research papers for the Institute for Wisconsin's Future.
It is an extortion in which the company is able to make threats whether or not they intend to carry them out, whether or not they need them. But they're able to make threats and hence drive down local taxes and get a number of local breaks simply because they make the demand.
Mercury Marine executives declined to do an on-camera interview, but in a statement said, "Our goal has been to emerge from the downturn as a stronger company." At the time, politicians were warning that Wisconsin's heavy tax burden was driving companies like Mercury Marine out of the state. So Fox 6 examined the records from the Department of Revenue. You won't find Mercury Marine anywhere. It is a subsidiary of the Lowe Corporation. The Wisconsin Department of Revenue's records show Brunswick has not paid a single cent in corporate income taxes to Wisconsin in this century.
If they're making any money, they're making some of it in Wisconsin, and that should be taxable here in Wisconsin.
Brunswick posted a loss in 2000, but made a profit in each of the next 7 years, making more than $1 billion, until the company again posted a loss in 2008.
They were, in a sense, blackmailing Fond du Lac County. They were blackmailing the state of Wisconsin.
University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee professor of governmental affairs Mordecai Lee closely follows the issue of public policy and corporate taxation.
The Mercury Marine story is really the perfect example of what's wrong with assuming the business is always right. Because here, we were begging them to take money. Some of it was in low-interest loans, some of it was just cash on the barrelhead, and they're not paying any taxes in Wisconsin.
Months after the Mercury Marine saga was resolved, Scott Walker was elected as Wisconsin's 45th governor, and he made his main objective clear.
Wisconsin is open for business.
He's worked to fulfill that promise, signing several pro-business measures into law.
You create jobs. The people of the state create jobs. We can either create a business environment, an environment for employers that's better or worse.
This month, Walker told a meeting of more than 1,000 Wisconsin business executives that the tax burden was too high.
I just don't hear people say, hey, Scott, the taxes in this state are too low.
Corporate taxation is a complicated topic. Along with state income taxes, companies pay property and unemployment taxes. A recent survey of 341 Wisconsin CEOs shows business leaders feel squeezed by the state.
When we asked them, what's the one thing state government can do to improve the business climate, they said lower the tax rate.
Kurt Bauer is the president and CEO of Wisconsin's largest business group. He says many smaller companies file as individuals and therefore avoid the corporate tax rate.
I think businesses by and large want to pay their fair share, and I think they are here in Wisconsin.
To find what corporations are actually paying, Fox 6 filed more than 40 open records requests for the largest 25 corporations in the state. The State Department of Revenue provided us information that shows while a few are paying in the millions, the vast majority of corporations are avoiding taxes. More than 2/3 have not paid a dime in net income taxes. The Department of Revenue information shows A.O. Smith, Actuant, Brady, Briggs & Stratton, Fiserv, GE, Joy Global, Miller Coors, Rockwell Automation, and several others all paid no state income taxes. It also shows Bucyrus paid no income taxes in 2010 and 2011 before being bought by Caterpillar. But in those years, it garnered more than $20 million in corporate income tax credits, cash grants, and loans. Johnson Controls paid zero in state income taxes in 2011. But also received 2 economic development tax credits worth a total of $3 million. Oshkosh, zero in income taxes and $35 million in credits. The records show Kohl's paid zero in state income taxes from 2010 through 2012. But in 2012, the company got a corporate tax income credit of $62.5 million. We showed the Department of Revenue corporate income tax records to Jack Norman.
0, 0, 0, 0, 0, almost zeros all over the place. Then there's a few that just really stand out with that aren't zeros. I like this McDonald's Corporation in 2010 paid a state tax of $764. That's got to be less than minimum wage workers are paying in state taxes.
A Fox 6 analysis of the last 2 state budgets shows that Wisconsin spends at least $1.5 billion a year on tax credits for businesses. That's 10% of the state budget, or about $270 per person every year. The governor defends the subsidies.
Until we can lower the overall rates, which is our ultimate goal, we've got to have at least some ammunition to go after these employers and to keep them.
But Professor Lee says that's bad public policy. He argues the government should be neutral.
Government should not be tilting the playing field to help business or to help labor. Government should be serving the public at large.
Taxes do matter because it is a cost of doing business, and if you can lower that cost, businesses are allowed to thrive and hopefully hire and invest and do other things that are good for the state.
And 5 years after the Mercury Marine situation, the company is still in Fond du Lac and has used the incentives to expand and add more than 1,500 jobs. In a statement, the company told us the incentives have, quote, certainly helped fuel our growth.
I'm glad that they are investing in Wisconsin, but you know, all of these years, they never paid a penny. I mean, we're looking back now 12, 13 years. So they're not being a good corporate citizen.
The presumption is always that tax incentives for businesses are a good thing. Maybe they are, maybe they're not.
We contacted several of the companies that we mentioned in this report. Many of them do not comment on their tax strategies, but Oshkosh told us it did not pay taxes in 2010 and 2011 because it carried over losses from 2009. The company also noted that it paid property taxes in both of those years. Johnson Controls said it wasn't responsible for state income taxes because it carried over losses from prior to 2010 and also received a state research and development grant. Kohl's noted that while Kohl's Corporation, the publicly traded company, paid no income taxes, some of its subsidiaries did indeed pay. And as for Brunswick, the parent company of Mercury Marine, they sent us a statement that said the company is, quote, in complete and current compliance with tax policy and requirements. And that is a point I want to stress. None of these companies are breaking the law. They are not evading taxes. They are simply avoiding them.
So then how are corporations avoiding taxes?
Well, it's a very complicated topic, and there are many strategies out there. But companies use these strategies like having large tax departments that work with lobbyists to get favorable laws written, and then they know how to exploit those loopholes, like offshore accounts or shifting money to other subsidiaries. But a full accounting of the strategies used is not possible as current law stands because the public just is not allowed to see this information. Right?
Well, and Mike, it seems like when you live in a state or you work in a state where there are higher tax rates than a number of states around you, that it opens the door, gives these companies the very incentive to do that, and it gives the state the incentive to try to do something to keep them, because they know they have a lot of options out there where the tax rates are lower.
Indeed, Governor Walker made the point over and over again that other states like Illinois and Minnesota and our neighbors all over the place are providing these incentives, so you can't unilaterally disarm and let businesses just leave the state if they're going to get a better deal. But the fact remains that businesses can do this and essentially get whatever they want from the communities. But the point you made earlier, Brad, is a good one, and that is that companies are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, which is making a profit, and they're doing exactly what their shareholders want them to do, which is make a profit. And so the less taxes they can pay, the better it is for their shareholders, possibly not for the public, though.
Yeah, and Mordecai raised a good point. Is this a good thing or not? Question still remains.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mike, thanks for that report.